Welcome to the CAN THR1VE Series. This is where these two ultra cool guys are going to hang out, we're going to talk story, and we are literally going to invite ourselves, but with positive vibes only, into your own journeys.
We're excited to share our perspectives, experiences, and the experiences of so many individuals we find inspiring in ways that we trust will bring you hope, motivation, and the inspiration to grow and ultimately thrive because, as I say, can. Jason is my coach, a cool Jamaican now living on the island of Kauai. He has launched a coaching platform that blends a scientific approach, drawing from his PhD and background as a former biomedical researcher and medical communications consultant. Jason's now a highly regarded fitness specialist and coach. He focuses on tapping into his clients' sense of strength as they physically and mentally transform and thrive.
Yeah, it's true. I am Andy's coach. This guy is an entrepreneur. He's the founder of a local Kauai apparel brand known as CAN THR1VE, which is really rooted in the principles of positive psychology. He's also a dedicated nonprofit fundraiser with a background as an elite endurance athlete and somebody who cherishes all the endorphins that are downstream of really challenging physical activities, usually very, very cardio focused. But he's super committed to continually improving in all aspects of his life, and more importantly, in helping others to discover their own spirit of CAN. All right, guys, welcome back to the CAN THR1VE series. Andy, how are you doing?
Doing well. How you doing?
Yeah, pretty good for the middle of the week.
And got past the tsunami?
Why would we start with that? Yes, survived the tsunami. It was, luckily it was more of a scare than a reality in the end. But I don't necessarily want to relive either portion of that. So I'm happy to have survived with
traffic jam. And I don't miss those sounds on my phone, but glad everybody's safe.
Yeah, the sounds on the phone, the actual sirens by the harbor, none of it was great. On the flip side, on the other end of things, everything's good. A little bit more grateful for what I have, to be honest.
Yeah, yep, it always does that.
Yeah. So thank you to you guys for joining, because I tell you what, the topic that we're going to cover today or address today really is something that was brought to us by one of our viewers and or listeners. Not quite sure. And the idea that, we're going to dig into a little bit is, how to remain quote unquote positive, how to, tap into what's going well when those around you maybe don't have the same tendency or viewpoint or tend to be a little bit more negative or, have a fault-finding mindset, on what that can mean for you as you interact with people in your usual day-to-day lives, and whatever that might look like. Andy, any thoughts initially to sort of kick things off?
Yeah, I would just say, we talk about positive psychology here a lot, and obviously you can spend 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day around others. And so they have a huge impact on your psychology, your positive psychology, or negative psychology, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's actually a worthwhile topic to dig into, because workplace happiness is a significant piece of well-being altogether. It's obviously hard because we're talking about the dynamics of lots of people in an environment and not your personal control, I guess, over your own well-being. You're doing your very best to navigate maybe somebody else's well-being.
When I think about something like this, you're exactly right. I mean, none of us are sort of solitary creatures. As humans, we are evolutionarily social and depend on our interactions with others for many multiple things and areas of our lives. In the environment, for example, of the workplace, it's a matter of, cooperativity, often to, meet goals, execute on tasks, and ensure that is happening in the most efficient, effective, and then pleasant way possible. So really trying to put yourself into the context of, okay, well, I'm in an environment that, there are positive aspects of the environment. There may be some negative aspects in terms of the social interactions that take place. And the place that I would start, in the shoes of someone in a quote unquote negative work environment is starting to reflect on, well, I'm in this environment. What are the positives? What are the things about the work environment or the work itself that is valuable and meaningful for you? And starting to shift your gaze a little bit more toward what those things are, with the idea that the appreciation of that stuff may help the more negative or the things that you don't enjoy per se to fade a little bit in their impact.
Yeah, so I was thinking about, I joked about the idea of like stoke intelligence on a previous
Yeah.
podcast, and I think there's also gripe intelligence. I mean, there's this idea that like negative things are going to occur at work, and
Right.
how you handle them make you a better fellow employee and friend at work. And sometimes it's really hard when you're dealing with something negative, either personally or a challenge at work, and you
Right.
want to reflect on it or share about it. And I think that there's times for it, and then there's times where you just got to swallow it and sort through it to your best
Right.
ability. I do think as a leader, I always like this concept from the movie Saving Private Ryan. There's a gripe chain of command. So
Yeah.
basically, you complain upwards and not downwards
Not
in the
downwards.
chain of
Yeah.
command. And
Yeah.
because if you have any kind of role as a leader, or if you're just a leader because people look up to you, and you begin complaining about things that your fellow employees or people that work under you it's out of their control, you're seeding all kinds of disengagement and frustration that they can't sort through or have any impact on.
Right. Yeah. So I guess there are all sorts of different like nuances to the context in which you might be exposed to quote unquote negativity in the workplace, right? One can be, exactly as you said, you're having a negative experience at work, and how are you sharing that information, and the sort of hierarchy chain of griping, right? Upward, not downward. And in particular, if you're a leader, I mean, you are looked to as sort of the example, and your behavior becomes, sort of, it sets the tone. It becomes either the model for, and hopefully that's in a positive sense, right? The flip side, or the other context in which this might occur, you might experience it, is not necessarily a negative experience at work, but with others bringing a negative mindset to literally everything, from things that they're experiencing as people to things that they're experiencing in work, and so on. And if you're on a journey of changing the tone of that voice for yourself, having that echo chamber of negativity can also be a challenge.
Yeah, the concept of engagement and disengagement. I've learned that through my career. I think in Hawaii, I worked at Hawaii Pacific Health, and Hawaii Pacific Health is it's not unflawed, but it's a pretty wonderful organization.
Yep.
And they had for quite a while used Gallup, which is the Gallup survey, in which they would ask questions of all different levels of staff, basically about their engagement or disengagement. Some of the questions would be like simple as, "Do you have a best friend at work?" Which I always thought was a great question to ask, because if you don't, you kind of got to wonder about the amount of time that you spend at work, and and then they're asking, do you have the right tools? Do people tell you that you're doing a good job? I always thought those were wonderful questions to ask. And if you're not asking them as a leader, whether you're a supervisor level or if you're at the C-suite, you're not pushing those concepts down. You will have disengagement if you don't have a clear understanding of what's going on within the organization, and you're not building a culture of some of those concepts. They're really simple ones too to ask. And so I always like that idea. I do think there are really important things to consider and ask, and allow your employees to, because I sometimes think that the negativity is occurring because people are not enjoying their time at work, and they're not, or maybe they're just a negative person. And the disengagement ratio, I forget what it is. It's fascinating, but it's
probably pretty high. Yeah.
Yeah, and it can be, like if you have, it's like 2 people to 5 or 6. I can't remember what it is, but you got to be really careful, because if this person, and it was funny because I was laughing earlier because the person that wrote us talked about Debbie Downers, and it's funny terminology, but yeah, there's some people that just show up negative, and you can do your best to make them laugh, or whatever you can do to improve the work environment. But sometimes it's they're that one person that's the disengaged, and you just hope they don't infect others.
I mean, I couldn't agree more with that. But I think you were trending toward a really, really important point that I think is worth making specifically, is, in sort of any environment where there are multiple people, and even in our solitary lives, in the environment we have in our minds in terms of thoughts and emotions, what's been found is that the weight, if you will, or the impact of negative emotions is significantly greater than that of positive. So the negative tends to stick around longer and be felt more intensely than the positive. And so they've actually found that there is sort of a positivity ratio that aligns with just a trend to overall well-being and thriving, and is significantly more positive emotions than negative. And then if you translate that into a social setting, having even one person within a small group, their sort of negative or negativity bias can really start to suppress the overall tone of the group. And I think that's really important to understand, because in any environment, if we are within a group of people, believe it or not, we all have a responsibility to improve the overall tone of that group. It may not seem like a responsibility that we want, but we have little what is the word that I'm looking for? We have little reason to complain if we're not part of the solution. What is it that you can tap into on your own or from your personal perspective to help lead in that direction? I think it's an important question for all of us to ask ourselves if we seriously want improvement.
Yeah, and I think that you have leaders within the organization that don't have title but have a spirit about them, and I think that you often have to realize it's sometimes their strong suit. Maybe they're average at the skill set that they're employed to do, but the power of their energy and what they bring to the team, you have to recognize that, and you might even be that person. You might even be the person that it is so much more engaged and observant of others, that an empath, so to speak, just lifting the team up. And I hope that leaders often recognize that, because it's such a powerful component of a team and an organization. So,
and something that you and I, in a separate conversation, discussed yesterday or a couple of days ago, and I think it's probably also worth mentioning here. And I can point in the direction of a source document, a book by Martin Seligman called Flourish, and he refers one section in the book to sort of the power of either positive thinking or negative thinking in the context of sport team success.
yeah.
So retrospectively looking at interviews by players or coaches following team loss, and scoring sort of the interview language that was used by players or coaches on a scale from super negative to super positive, what they found is that the more that the language skewed towards positivity, the more likely the team was to win in their following game or following match. And they even pulled out the player comments and focused only on the coach's comments, and they found the same effect. Your vibe as an individual player on a team and your attitude as a coach leading a group, both of those things independently are influencing outcomes, whether positive or negative. And that's really, it seems sort of obvious, but at the same time a little bit shocking that your outcomes, your performance is literally influenced by the mindset you have following something that could objectively be seen as negative, a loss.
Yeah, it was a great conversation, and it's funny. I have to give a pep talk to a football team coming up, which is hilarious, because I'm like the Rudy. I'm 5'0", 100 nothing, not a speck of athletic.
But if you watch the movie, that's exactly what you need to be, right?
But I have enough background in sport to know the importance of it, and I don't think any of them listen to this, but the thing that I want to get across to them, and how I was looking at the concept of CAN, because they're going to have 500 rally towels in the crowd, which is super cool. And for me, what I want to get across to them is the concept of CAN in that instance is the processing of CAN as quickly as possible. So expediting the process of CAN, because if something negative happens in a play, by the time you get back to the huddle, you better have processed it or compartmentalized it or done something with it. And sometimes a coach will pull you off the field, and it's not because they're mad at you. It's because they know you need a little bit more time to sort out that can't and get back in the game.
Yeah.
And I think it's such an important, I started to think of the collective
Yeah.
can versus the collective can't of teams.
Yep.
And so much when you watch sport, it's momentum.
Yep.
And it's this, it literally could be an aspect of the way that team culture is built.
Hmm.
They might not always have the most talent,
Right.
but when they turn the tide of positive psychology and they process negativity more quickly,
Yeah.
I feel like it can crush momentum of another team sometimes, and it's fun to watch like
Yeah.
really talented athletes
Hmm.
process negativity quickly.
Yeah. I think it's
Golfers,
even more
ball
fun to
artists.
see in individual sports, because when it
Yeah,
is
yeah, it is.
literally just
Yeah,
you watching a player completely compartmentalize what has just occurred and rapidly make that switch to that
yeah,
was then, this is now. And like you see the self belief and sort of that determination to move in the direction that they want. And it literally happens. You're like, oh, they're manifesting it. Well, they're doing exactly what you said. They're processing that can't and switching over to their can mindset as quickly as possible. And it has, it can have dramatic results.
and if you happen to be a captain or one of the better players on the team, there is an expectation of setting a tone for the team because they are already looking to you. And so
Absolutely.
you have an incredible opportunity to impart wisdom and culture on others around you. And that's why I
Yes.
think people become team captains is often, and hopefully coaches really practice these things because
Yeah.
it's so key.
Yeah, I think from my own practice as a coach, I think one thing that I will share with anybody listening out there, and it's a remarkable tool both as a coach and as someone who is coached or just a regular person, is the idea of thinking about a situation and trying to identify the best thing. We're so good as humans for hunting for the things that aren't going well or the negative. We're a little bit less good and we remember less well the things that are going well. So the minute you ask somebody, what's the best thing that's happened so far this week? Almost everybody's going to like really stop and pause and think. And now they're like really trying to go through everything that's happened, but they're hunting for the good stuff. And the minute they grab onto something that was awesome, the best thing, body language changes, the energy that you see changes literally right in front of you. And that's just sort of a coaching technique to help people to shift their energy and to shift their focus over to something that's good. And in the work environment, even if you're around people who are quote unquote Debbie Downers or consistently negative, presenting the question of, hey, what was the best thing you did this weekend? I mean, that might take them completely off guard because they're ready to complain about something. But
Yeah.
the minute you stop them in their tracks with that, what's the best thing question, you've energetically completely shifted them, and you're going to be surprised by the effect that that can have
Yeah. And that's your tool with me. So it works.
every time.
I'm not
Every
immune
time.
to it.
No,
It's
none of us are, and that's the
yep.
cool thing. It's great to be on both sides of that question, the person asking and the person being asked.
Yeah. And the pause thing is pretty funny that but it's also fun if if you pause and you've got several and you get to sort through them. I think
Mhm.
that's a feeling
Yeah,
of gratitude that you might
yeah.
have in your life. But people don't pose that question very often.
Something you can like ask yourself if you find that you are in a zone of quote unquote negative that you're not really liking or enjoying, and you want to shift that. People call it by different names, like gratitude practice, a what went well practice. You can call it by whatever name you want. The idea is asking yourself, what's good,
Mhm.
what's great, what went well, and like taking the time to think about, process your thoughts and answer the question. You're gonna come out on the back end of that process in a different, more positive place. But to really get back to the meat of it, if you find yourself in a situation either at work or in your social circle or family where there is a prevailing sense of negativity that you're not wanting, and you're working on yourself to be a little bit more positive, the first thing I'd encourage is just pause, reflect on where you are, and whether or not you are contributing to that environment, but certainly provide others an opportunity to see what their approach might be and how they may be contributing to the negativity by simply holding up a mirror to them and asking what went well. invite them into a place of positivity, and that will most likely lead the group and the vibe and the environment forward.
And I'll just say we love the idea of people sending in topics, and hopefully you like us chopping it up here and sharing, our thoughts and ideas and Jason's background in coaching. So please send us any more topics or ideas, and we'll do our best to slot them in.
Yeah. And I'll add one more thing, Andy. So not only topics, questions, but really your thoughts. I mean, if you disagree with some of the information and the perspectives that we present, we would love to hear your voice, your thoughts, your opinions. This is not, this is a shared environment, it's a shared space where, we're hoping to interact as closely with you as possible. So definitely send us your thoughts, your feedback on anything that we cover here, as well as sending in your ideas and questions. But, I'm not tech savvy enough to know how to answer that question either. But
leave a review, and you want to leave a good review, we'll take it. Thank you.
Yeah, and on YouTube, for sure, thumbs up, subscribe, add comments. If this is the sort of thing that you find valuable, then the more you engage with the content, the more, number one, it encourages us to continue going, and the more you're going to see us in your feed, which is key, right? If you like it, you'll get more. All right, guys, with that, I guess we'll see you on the next one. Coming up soon. What is the topic? I don't know. You tell us.
Thanks, Jason.
All right. Take it easy, Andy. See you. All right, guys. If our conversation has been meaningful to you in any way today, then please would like to encourage you to support us through, number one, subscribing to the Defeating CAN podcast, which Andy regularly hosts. Of course, following the Spirit of CAN on Instagram, and definitely go ahead and pick up a piece of CAN merch from any of the retail outlets like Deja Vu Surf here on Kauai, or head online to thespiritofcan.com. We'll keep those links here below. And be sure to follow Jason on LinkedIn and Instagram accounts, and reach out to him by DM with any fitness, lifestyle, or well-being and performance-related questions you have. He'd love to learn more about you, as he has with me, and support your continued growth and well-being through coaching. All right, guys, super important to keep in mind the context of all our conversations here in this series. And I am a certified health and well-being coach. I'm a personal trainer. I'm a fitness nutrition specialist. But at the end of the day, I am not a physician. I am not a therapist. I'm not a registered dietitian. So it's really important to keep that in mind and consult with your preferred healthcare provider, whether that be a medical doctor or a therapist, to ensure that your particular needs are being met specifically by a trained professional. And just as Jason mentioned, the discussions and concepts discussed in this podcast are for informational purposes only. If the cant in your mind ever becomes too much, we encourage you to consult with a professional. As I've always said, can ask for help. You remember this sticker? You've probably seen it in an order or out in the world. We've given away thousands of these, as it's so important that we want you to reach out when you need it.